Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Human resilience at work refers to the capacity of individuals to adapt, recover, and maintain their well-being in the face of workplace challenges, stressors, and setbacks. Resilience in the workplace involves the ability to bounce back from adversity, navigate change, and sustain optimal performance. Let's discuss more on this topic in today's episode of Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Dipshi, and today I have with me the founder and CEO of Two Rivers Partners, Barbara Spitzer. Barbara Spitzer is the founder of Two Rivers Partners, a strategy firm that prepares organizations to navigate today's most disruptive forces by aligning business and workforce strategies and building organization effectiveness and strategy execution capabilities. Barbara works with senior executives to drive growth with digitization, sustainability, and leadership development, resulting in large-scale, purpose-driven transformation. Welcome to the show, Barbara.
Hi, Dipshi. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, Barbara. We're so glad to have you here. So before delving into today's topic, could you please throw some light on your wellness journey?
I just transitioned from a 35-year strategy consulting career, most recently with Accenture. And I've always been interested in wellness. I'm a human capital expert by trade, and I have been involved in some very interesting research over the course of my career on human resilience, Accenture's Net Better Off and hidden worker research, which is really all about how to make workplaces more worker friendly. I now run my own company where I advise clients. I teach at the university level. And I sit on several nonprofit boards. One of them is the National Alliance of Mental Illness here in the U.S., as well as a nonprofit called Restless Development, which trains youth. So I'm deeply involved. I've also done quite a bit of work in disability inclusion.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. So now let's begin with our topic of today. So tell me, how does prioritizing physical well-being contribute to building resilience in the workplace?
Well, I don't really break physical, mental, and relational. Those are sort of the three domains of well-being inside work. I don't really break them apart. I do a lot of work in longevity as well. And we talk about lifespan, but it really should be health span, like how do we stay healthy for as long as possible? So the physical well-being is obviously at the very foundation and the core. I believe that humans are on their way to a 100-year life. There are a lot of forces against that, whether it be climate related or stress related and things like that. But we all get our education in the first quarter of our lives. Many people retire 2/3 into their lives, and it's just not, the way people are going to work. So corporations really play an important role in empowering their people to take care of their physical well-being. And, the pandemic was a big wake-up call. Now work from home is a bit of a wake-up call. Sitting is the new smoking. And I think that companies need to not only have a series of programs that are geared toward helping people be more physically healthy, but they also have accommodations, and use technology and innovation around flexible work arrangements, the whole return to work, it's quite the challenge for people. And I think that we're still figuring out, the implications of that on people's physical and mental well-being. So, I think it's a portfolio that organizations really need to pay attention to. Our Net Better Off research when I was with Accenture was around to the emotional and mental, the physical, the relational, which is a sense of belonging, financial well-being, purposeful well-being, which is really working in a place where you have a sense of purpose, which has a lot to do with living a long life. And then employable, right? Making sure that employers are giving their people a set of skills that are transferable. across the entire lifespan of their career.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these things play in together. The last thing I'll say about employers, they have to be responsible leaders, right? They have to use technology and innovation to make workplaces more humane. They need to be in touch with the emotional and mental side of work. They've got to engage their employees like a really critical stakeholder,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to really have intuition and emotional intelligence. So all those factors go together to creating, a holistic and responsible approach to making people at work healthier in general. Employers have a responsibility to care about that.
Yes. And do you think when you like talk about relational well-being, so can you share some examples of strategies that can promote relational well-being and its impact on fostering resilience within teams? Because I believe when we are working in a corporate, so we are mostly working with our teams, and having or building resilience is very important when we're working within teams, right?
Yeah, no, it's relational, right? I mean, I was watching a TV show last night. It's sort of the Industrial Revolution era, and workers were just beginning to strike, and their slogan was 888. 8 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep, and 8 hours of your life, right? 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening to be with family and with friends. And relational is really about not only creating a sense of psychological safety and belonging, but also connecting individuals and teams with the purpose of the organization and the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Teams work best when they have a sense of purpose and a shared sense of destiny. What is it that they're trying to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
Cross-functional working, so that it's not about silos, but it's about a set of shared goals where everyone comes together. And so again, if you think about the pandemic era, right? 2020 was like, oh, how are we, the world, going to get through this collective experience? And while it was horrible, there was so much death and everything that happened during that time, but there was a collective global experience, right? We all learned how to work, whether you were an essential frontline worker in the hospitals or taking care of food, or you were an office worker working from home. Companies rose to the occasion, and there was a sense of shared purpose. And 2021 was a year of great commerce. Companies couldn't hire talent fast enough. But what happened? 2022, now the economy started turning. Supply chain shortages and a whole, the wars, terrorist attacks, all this thing that's happening is really putting companies on the back foot when it comes to the economy. And we went from a culture of caring to a culture of, you're lucky to have a job kind of a mentality. And I'm speaking pretty generally, right? It's not like it's in every single country.
Mm-hmm.
But, when things do turn around, people are going to remember, they're not going to forget. And employers, forced return to work. And I'm involved in some research that says employees who have a choice about hybrid work from home or full-time in the office are more productive than employees who don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So companies with forced RTO policies, their employees are not going to be as productive. So there's a whole series of things happening right now that are really impacting that relational well-being, which affects mental and physical. So I really fear that when it becomes an employee's market again, and it will, because there will always be a shortage of talent. I've been in human capital for 35 years. There's never been a time where we said, oh, we won the war for talent. Finally we have enough people. I've never, ever experienced that. There will always be a shortage, especially as populations age in certain countries. Whereas unemployment in developing companies is just absolutely unacceptably high. So there's such a supply demand imbalance. So this is going to turn around. The economy, global economy will get better and people won't forget. So companies need to stay responsible, listen to their employees, be tuned in, and make sure they care for them in good times and in bad.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some high level themes, but I've got some tactical things as well that we can talk about when you're ready.
Absolutely. So, do you believe, like organizations, if they encourage open conversations about mental health, physical health, like with their employees, so that can enhance the overall resilience of the employees to provide them with a supportive environment at work?
Yeah, 100%. So my work with NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, I'm on the board of directors. I've been helping them with their workplace mental wellness and mental illness work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am a huge believer that executives, senior level people have got to start to talk about disability, including mental disability, mental wellness. If you don't have a disability, whether it be mental or physical, you will age into one. Everybody will. Nobody will avoid it. And so I actually, I live with anxiety, and I talk about it very openly. And I talk about it publicly. I talk about it with my employees because I think we need to make it okay to say that we're all different, right? We all have lived experiences. And at our gala, we had Drew Robinson. He's a U.S. Baseball player, National League, and he had a suicide attempt, which he survived with some serious physical injuries. But nonetheless, he speaks about it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if people have a platform, can start to share their lived experience, others will say, well, I have that experience, and how can I get help? You know, in every country, there are laws about employers' requirement to provide a reasonable accommodation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
being able to stand up and say, I need time at certain times of my life to take a step back, to
Mm-hmm.
deal with my wellness. I need to work differently. I need a different kind of an office setup. I can't work in a high stimulus environment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the employers had the policies and the programs and the ability to listen and hear their people. They can make an accommodation. In the U.S., the statistic is that accommodations average cost is $500. So it's not like we're talking about huge amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's everywhere from a policy level to a technology level to a physical environment and facilities level, and
Mm-hmm.
then to a cultural level and a leadership level. So all of those levels of an organization need to be aligned with the needs of their people. So listening is absolutely essential. Listening to your employees, what are they saying, what do they need, and then responding accordingly is super important.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I believe leaders and managers can contribute to building a culture that prioritizes the holistic well being of employees, right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, you know what? It starts with the board of directors. I sit on boards, and I advise boards. And there's a lot of talk about tone at the top, right? That it starts at the board level, and boards are more, think about ESG. They're much more interested in the S part of ESG, the social part, whether it be the communities in which their corporations operate or their employee base. So the tone's at the very, very top. And so culture is so important. And I think the younger generation coming into the workforce
Mm-hmm.
will demand and expect, because in their schooling, they grew up in an environment where it was much more common to talk about cognitive, mental situations that might affect their learning journey. And they're going to come into the workforce expecting the same level of service and accommodation and conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So a culture that accepts difference is going to be so important. And it's diversity, right? Diversity makes the world go round. And when I worked for the National Organization on Disability, we had a campaign called Look Closer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about someone who has bipolar or ADD or some other cognitive condition that isn't visible, they have they have powers that others don't. Like if you're a designer, you have this level of creativity that is just so off the charts. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the common one, the stereotypical one, is people who are neurodiverse are actually quite good at data analytics and programming because they have this supernatural ability to focus. So if we could just get corporations to say differences actually create a diverse set of capabilities that actually make us perform better as a business, then we need to look for a workforce that represents that diversity. Our research at Accenture shows taking care of mental, physical, and relational can actually create a 5% bump in performance. So there's that suggests that there's a ROI here.
Exactly. Okay, so with this, we almost come to the end of the session. So here's the last and the most important question, I believe. What are some practical steps that organizations can take to integrate a comprehensive approach to well-being, encompassing physical, mental, and relational aspects in their workplace resilience strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing is to listen, right? Is to really use social listening. Make sure, you use techniques that really get to the essence. Employee engagement surveys are fine, right? But they have, do you like the compensation? Do you know what the vision is? They don't often enough get into the physical, emotional, and relational aspects of the employee existence. So using innovative techniques to listen, that's first and foremost. Then I think about making sure your leaders embrace the notion of responsible leadership, that they value intuition. They value the employee as a critical stakeholder. They understand the benefit of innovation and technology, right, to make the workplace a more humane place. They also know how to take things away, right? Right now we have an economic downturn, and what's happening? Employees are letting people go, but they're not changing the workload. So people can only do so much. So really take a hard look at what are you asking your surviving workforce to do on any given day, having the courage to really focus and take things away. And then not every leader should be a leader. What are the leaders that really need to be empowered to be champions for the well-being, for the sense of belonging and the mental well-being? How can companies identify those leaders who have a following, who are respected, and deploy them in a way to create that tone at the top, right? It's also reconnecting with your shared purpose and values, even if you're doing layoffs, even if your stock price is lower, even if you've had four quarters of lower performance. Always linking back to what your purpose as a company is and making sure you do not lose sight of that, because companies will get through the downturn, and not everyone has corporate survivalist skills, right? Some employees are better than others of writing it out. This too shall pass. I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to be resilient. So attaching and connecting to that purpose for those who tend toward negativity. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'm going to step back. I'm not going to produce. Well, if you can inspire them with your purpose, you can get more out of them. And then storytelling. Tell the story of what's the future look like? What's the plan to get there? What's the plan to get through all of this? And being inspiring. And then communications, making sure that you have a communications plan. And then lastly, spending some time focusing on the future, even though the here and now is really important on how are we going to get through tough times, but always staying focused on the future. So those are some things. And then there's a lot of really practical things, having the right programs. There are Thrive Global, your employee assistance program, making sure your insurance benefits offer the time, having accommodations around mental well-being, physical well-being. It is truly thinking about the return to work. When I was at Accenture, we had a brand new office here in New York City. We had treadmill desks. We had ping pong tables, which were not just for fun, but we had stairs. All the office was connected by stairs, and the stairs were, you had to walk halfway around the footprint to get to the next staircase. And the staircase had different interesting facts about them. So people were encouraged to take the stairs. Like, how do you create your physical environment that encourages physical well-being? And then, of course, relational, right? That's connection with the purpose. It's, offices should be places where people gather. Offices should not be places where people go and they sit on Zoom calls all day. You might as well stay home and save the commute time. So how do you use your office as a gathering place? So those are just some really tangible things that I think can be done. But again, the tone starts from the top. The board of directors need to be tuned in. The C-suite needs to be tuned in. And even though you may be going through bad times, you cannot forget your responsibility as a leader to take care of your humans. We did a good job during the pandemic, right?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the responsibility is the leaders and managers are responsible for taking care of their employees' overall health, right? So as all of us spend like more than 8 hours at work every day, so we spend most of our time working. So I believe leaders have that responsibility towards us to take care of us in every way possible.
Absolutely. Look, I'm a big believer. I'm a capitalist. I believe in profit, right? But I also believe that profit comes with a workforce that is physically, mentally healthy and connected.
Yeah, so employees are the most important assets of any organization, right?
100%. They're also not most of the time the biggest cost factor, unless you're like a space, right? And you're sending machinery into space. That's a little heavy capital investments, but yes, they're high cost, important.
Okay, Barbara. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your valuable time. The entire session was very insightful. I got to learn a lot of things. Thank you so much again.
Dipshy, so nice to meet you, and thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.